So, OpenAI, the company famous for its massive, very closed-off AI models, well, they just did something nobody really saw coming. They've released a whole family of powerful, state-of-the-art reasoning models, and here's the kicker, they're open weight. We're going to dive into what this major shift in the AI landscape really means.
Right out of the gate, industry analyst Thorsten Mayr called GPT-OS the new open-weight language model king. I mean, that's a huge claim. So in this explainer, we're going to break down what that really means, looking at the incredible promise and, the serious risks that come right along with it.
Okay, so here's the plan. We'll start by unpacking this surprise move from OpenAI. Then, we'll get into the incredible power these new models are packing, before we flip the coin and talk about the steep price of all this freedom. And to wrap it all up, we'll connect the dots on why this release is such a game changer for anyone building with AI.
So what exactly is GPT-OS? Well, it's not just another model. It's a whole new playbook for OpenAI. And it's built on a really clever design that completely changes the game when it comes to who can use it and how efficiently it runs.
The secret sauce here is something called a mixture of experts architecture, or MOE for short. Now, instead of having one gigantic brain trying to do absolutely everything, an MOE model is more like a smart project manager. It looks at a problem and routes different parts of it to smaller, specialized expert networks. Think of it like this. You're better off with a team of consultants, one for finance, one for legal, one for creative, than hiring one person who's just kind of okay at everything. That's what makes this whole setup so incredibly efficient.
And that efficiency, it's not just a theory. You can see it right here in the specs. The big one, GPTOS 120B, has almost 117 billion parameters in total. But because of that smart MOE design, it only uses about 5 billion at any given time. What does that mean for you? It means this beast can run on a single, high-end GPU, not a massive, expensive data center. And the smaller model? It's even more accessible, running on a machine with just 16 gigs of memory. That's a huge deal. Okay, so it's efficient, but does that mean it's weak? Not even close. In fact, it's the exact opposite. These models are absolute heavyweights. They're punching way, way above their weight class, with performance that seriously rivals much larger closed systems.
And this is so important to understand. These are not your average chatbots. They're agentic models. That's a fancy word, but it just means they are built for action. They don't just talk, they do things. They can think through a problem, lay out a step-by-step plan, and then actually use tools like browsing the web or running Python code to get the job done. We're talking about the building blocks for autonomous agents here, not just fancy text completion.
And the performance, wow, just look at this. On the HealthBench benchmark, which uses really tough real-world medical questions, GPTOS 120B doesn't just hold its own, it flat-out outperforms several of OpenAI's own closed models, including the mighty GPT-4o. This is massive for researchers in fields like healthcare, where cost and data privacy have always been huge hurdles.
And this incredible performance isn't a fluke, it's consistent. Across the board, whether you're talking math, science, or even tricky coding problems, the big GPT-OS model is pretty much neck and neck with OpenAI's own closed O4 Mini. It's solid proof that an open model can reason and execute at a ridiculously high level.
Okay, so we have a model that's incredibly powerful, super efficient, and completely open. It sounds, well, a little too good to be true, doesn't it? Which leads us to the one very obvious question, what's the catch? And yeah, there is a catch. A pretty big one, actually. Because with all this incredible openness comes some very significant risk. This is a part of the story where we pivot from all that promise to some serious peril.
Just look at this number, 78.2%. That's the rate that GPT-OS 120B hallucinates, which is a polite way of saying it just makes stuff up when you don't let it browse the web. This shows you just how dependent it is on its tools. Without that live connection to the real world, its own internal knowledge is, well, it's just not reliable.
And this gets to the heart of the matter. By releasing the model's weights, OpenAI has essentially passed the buck on safety right on to the developers, to you. Anyone can now take this model and fine-tune it to get around safety filters. It's not great at resisting jailbreak prompts, and it can get confused by complex instructions. So here's the bottom line. If you decide to use GPT-OS,
You are the one responsible for building and maintaining the guardrails.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. We've got immense power and efficiency on one side, and some pretty serious risk and responsibility on the other. What does this shakeup actually mean for the future of AI?
This release is such a landmark for a few key reasons. First, you get chain-of-thought transparency. This lets researchers see how the model thinks, which is huge for making AI safer. Second, the native tool use means way less engineering headache when you're building complex agents. Third, that resource efficiency we talked about brings high-end AI down to hardware people can actually own. And finally, the Apache 2.0 license basically says, go for it. You can build commercial products without restriction.
In the end, it all comes back to this one powerful idea. With more freedom comes more responsibility. The GPT-OS family is pushing the limits of what OpenAI can be, giving us this rare mix of incredible power and real accessibility. But that freedom isn't free. The real test is going to be how we, the community, rise to the challenge of using this amazing tool responsibly. The question is no longer just what the model can do, it's what we choose to do with it.